Samson, the strongest man in the Bible, was the son of Manoah, and he had supernatural strength to do the unbelievable. Let's take a look at some of the unbelievable things Samson did in the Bible, starting from tearing a lion with his bare hands to defeating 3,000 Philistines by himself. The son of Manoah, Samson was born in the Danaan town of Zorah, on the border of Judah. He lived close to Beth Shemesh, which means, house of the sun. An angel signaled the birth of Samson in a difficult period for the Israelites. Samson was raised as a Nazirite and was given special power by God to carry out his will in the people of Israel. He was prepared to confront them alone because of his strong hatred for the Philistines, who had tormented Israel for around 40 years. He appears to have been driven mainly by personal retaliation. He was kind-hearted, bitter, and funny, and he used both his brains and his fists to fight. Samson traveled to Timnah and came across a Philistine woman there. He told his parents, "I saw a Philistine woman in Timnah when he got home. I want to marry her, so I want you to go get her for me." The Lord was seeking for a means to confront the Philistines, who were in control of Israel at the time, and he did not want Samson's parents to know that. Israel was ruled by the Philistines at this period. Samson then traveled to Timnah with his parents. He heard a young lion growling as they passed through the vines that were there. Samson's strength was suddenly increased by the power of the Lord, and he used his bare hands to divide the lion as if it were a young goat. But he kept his actions a secret from his parents. He liked the woman after talking to her afterwards. A couple of days later, Samson returned to propose to her. He stopped along the route to examine the lion he had just slain, and to his surprise, there were bees and some honey within the corpse. He ate the honey while walking by rubbing it into his hands. Then he went and gave some to his mother and father. They consumed it, but Samson kept a secret from them, that he had taken the honey from a lion's corpse. Samson hosted a feast at the woman's home while his father visited her. The young men had a habit of doing this. The Philistines sent 30 young men to stay with him when they saw him. Samson commanded them, "I'm willing to give each of you a piece of fine linen and a set of stylish clothes that you won't be able to explain its significance to me. The wedding feast 7 days are over. Tell us your riddle," they demanded. "Let's listen to it." In the words of the speaker, out of the eater came something to eat, out of the strong came something sweet. They still hadn't figured out the mystery after 3 days. On the 4th day, they instructed Samson's wife to trick her husband into explaining the riddle's significance. "If you don't, we'll burn you along with your father's home when we set it on fire. Didn't you too invite us so you could steal us?" Samson's wife then sobbingly approached him and said, "You do not love me. You simply hate me. You presented a question to my friends but kept the answer from me. I haven't even told my mother and father," he said. "Why would you want to know?" Throughout the entire 7-day feast, she wept about it. But after 7 days of her bothering him about it, he finally explained what the riddle meant to her. She afterwards informed the Philistines. Before Samson entered the bedroom on the 7th day, the men of the city asked him, "What could be sweeter than honey? What might be more powerful than a lion? If my cow hadn't been working with you, you wouldn't know the answer right now," Samson replied. He suddenly became powerful due to the Lord's might, and he descended upon Ashkelon where he killed 30 men, stripped them of their luxurious clothing, and delivered their clothing to the men who had figured out the puzzle. After that, he returned home in an angry state about what had transpired. Delilah, the woman Samson loved and who the Philistines' officials sent to seduce him, betrays him by having his hair cut while he is sleeping and turning him over to the Philistines. The Philistine men took Samson as a prisoner. His eyes got ripped out, and he was sent to Gaza City. He was then bound with chains to prevent him from escaping. He was imprisoned and forced to grind grain. However, his hair started to regrow. The leaders of the Philistines gathered to rejoice. They intended to make a significant sacrifice for their god Dagon. They said that, "Our God helped us defeat Samson, our enemy." The Philistines worshipped their god when they saw Samson. "This man destroyed our people," they cried. "He's murdered a lot of our people, but our God helped us to defeat our enemy." At the event, people who attended were having a fantastic time. "Bring Samson out," they commanded. "He is the target of our mockery." Samson was so taken out of the prison. In the Dagon temple, they forced him to stand between the pillars. He was being held by a servant. "Put me where I can feel the columns holding up this temple," Samson demanded. "I would want to rest against them." Both men and women were packed into the temple. There were all the Philistine kings. On the temple roof, there were about 3,000 men and women. Samson was being laughed at and made fun of. Samson prayed, "Lord God, remember me," at that point. "Please, God, grant me courage once more. Let me do this one thing to make up for the Philistines tearing out both of my eyes." Then Samson grabbed hold of the 2 temple columns in the center, which served as the building's fundamental pillar. Between the two columns, he braced himself. He had a right column and a left column next to him. Samson pleaded with them, "Let me die with these Philistines." The temple then collapsed on the rulers and everyone inside when he exerted all of his strength. Samson killed a lot more Philistines after his death than he did while he was alive. Samson's brothers and the entire father's part of the family came to get his body. Between the cities of Zorah and Eshtaol, where his father's tomb is located, they took him back and buried him there. For 20 years, Samson ruled as the Israelites' judge. According to some Jewish legends, Samson was interred in Israel's Zorah, which has a view of the Sorek Valley.